We are doing an interview after 9 months of not doing one. So we have
Bill Cosby.
we have a comedian. My first comedian official friend. I have friends that are funny, but I don't think they consider themselves comedians.
Well, why don't you invite one of your funny friends? Just kidding. I'm Charlie Spink. I'm a comic from Concord, California.
That's where I'm from.
Wait, you're from Concord, California?
Yeah.
Where the hell are we right now?
Concord, California.
We're in the internet. We are everywhere. We are worldwide. We are on the moons of Jupiter. We are everywhere. It's a beautiful thing.
So, Charlie, right?
That's me.
Tell me something that normally people don't know about you.
I am invisible. I have the power to disintegrate at will. Just at Will Smith. And by that I mean, Will Smith walked by me one time in Malibu and didn't say hi. And that made me feel really invisible. I don't know.
Did he really?
No, he didn't. That was
I believe
complete
you.
bullshit. He was the Fresh Prince of Agony because he hurt my feelings. This was me before I saw him, and then like that. He broke me corazon, as I think you guys might be
Corazon.
hysterical.
Heart.
Yeah,
Yes.
hearts.
Yeah.
That what it means? Okay, I just know
Yes.
corazon, frijoles. My day job is in construction, so I know the important words to say when people walk by, like chichis, panocha, which from what I hear is a very tasty candy. Guys just love eating panocha all the time. They're always trying to hit that like a pinata, then eat the panocha. I think the panocha falls out of the pinata. It's been a long time since my quinceañera, so I don't know. You guys can really help me out with that.
You mean tamarindo?
I guess
tamarindo?
meal. What?
Tamarindo?
I don't understand the
No,
Latin.
no candy.
I'm not Latino, so I don't know Latin. I think
Gotcha. It's a candy.
It's a candy.
Yeah, it's a candy.
It's probably bad for your teeth. But no, something people don't know about me. I'm not good at answering questions directly. Bam! I just made that clear and apparent. No, I think that I talk about just about everything about me on stage. So after 25 to 45 minutes, people go like, yeah, I know that guy. He's all right.
So you get nervous?
Yes and no. So I remember the first time I ever did stand-up. I was 12 years old at a school talent show. It was actually the audition for the school talent show. But my class was there, and another class was there, and the principal. So it was basically like a talent show already.
Right.
And I got up there, and I did 5 minutes. And I was so nervous. And I remember thinking to myself, if I do this for 26 more years, I bet I'll get less nervous. And I haven't. No, I still get a little nervous on stage every time, but a lot of comedy is lying to yourself. Lying to yourself that you're funnier than other people, that you're more charismatic than other people, that you won't fall off the stage every 5 minutes. And comedy is kind of the personification of fake it till you make it. So do I get nervous on stage? Pretty much every time, but I fight through it. And that's what makes comedians the real heroes. You're firefighters, teachers, whatever. The soldiers, comedians, first responders. Or at least we're the first to respond to heckling. Like, I guess that's important for something.
Now tell me, have you ever actually fallen off stage?
I haven't fallen off stage. I have had things thrown at me on stage.
Like food?
So to speak, I had condiments thrown at me on stage. I think that historically, people think of a tomato being thrown on stage. I was doing a show in Berkeley when I was in college. It was the end of high school, but end of high school, college, I was 18 or 19. And I said a joke that somebody found offensive, and they grabbed a bottle of ketchup, a glass bottle of ketchup, and threw it at me. They projectiled it towards my facial region while I was on stage. And it was a Heinz 57, so there were 57 flavors and ingredients of delicious tomato blood full of, sugar and diabetes just flying towards my face. And luckily they missed because one, they had bad aim, and two, I'm real quick. Give them one of these and one of these. Like I was a Backstreet Boy doing that move from the Backstreet's Back video. All right. But it flew right past my head, it shattered very dramatically behind me. I looked like there was a murder behind me. I had a shoulder full of blood-looking stains, and I left the stage. So in the hundreds and hundreds of times I've been on stage, that's the only time I've ever left before my time was up, because I felt threatened, and somebody throwing ketchup at you just makes you hungry. So I just needed a snack, I went and got a Snickers bar, because when you're hangry, grab a Snickers. Product placement. There we go. Snickers, sponsor this.
Yes. Yes. Snickers is definitely my favorite chocolate to go to.
Exactly. That's for all of us in this community. We love Snickers. Thing we love about Snickers? It's little nuts. It's inside. It's an inside joke. It's an inside joke because there's nuts inside the Snickers.
Yeah, I would probably be pissed if a bottle of ketchup was thrown at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're a French fry, then you're like, I'm going swimming. I'm gonna go out on top. Somebody's gonna eat me, but I'm gonna be fucking delicious. That's probably what I would feel. That's a French fry in peril.
All right. I'm not a sauce fan, so.
You're not a sauce fan? Barbecue.
Ranch,
You go ranch.
but
Or ranchero.
Ranchero
Because
on my
you're
salad.
Hispanicals. Yeah.
yeah.
Ranchero. Or what would be Spanish for Jolly Rancher? Bueno Ranchero. Like I was thinking there has to be some
Yeah.
catchy
Ranch
name
and
for
Jolly, because
for
Jolly
Hispanic,
is like
yeah.
happy ranch.
Yeah.
But I guess city people feel more entitled than rancheros, you know,
Yeah.
because there's that little city versus.
Yeah, they think they're better. They're like,
Yeah.
our sombreros aren't that big, you know.
Right.
We can wear normal sized cowboy hats. That's how they feel.
Yeah.
But rancheros, they know what's up. They know with sombreros, the bigger the better. Size does matter.
White, black, or brown sombrero.
Oof, if I had to go, I would say pink.
Pink.
Because, I mean, Little Nas X, he's huge right now.
Yes.
I saw him in a pink sombrero, and I tend to take most of my fashion advice from Lil Nas X. I'm trying to be more of a Big Nas X, if I can. Or Big Nas C for Charlie, why not?
I'm for that.
Yeah, but you think
His
about...
fashion's out of this world.
His fashion is from outer space, literally, and, you know, he's very flamboyant, and if I had a pink sombrero, it would match my nipples. So, I like to accessorize with my nipples as much as I can with all of my hats.
I love it. So there's this saying about comedians,
Yeah.
and I want you to confirm or deny.
Plead the fifth.
I haven't even asked yet.
I know, I'm preparing for court.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. No, it's not that deep. It's not that
Yeah.
deep. But
No, not court like criminal court. Court as in court furniture. I'm going to buy a couch later, so
Oh, gotcha.
preparing for that. You got to play hardball when you're buying a
Gotcha.
couch.
It is said that comedians are probably the most depressed people on earth. Would you say that's true, or?
I would say that there is a lot of truth behind it. You know, it was either Aristotle or Socrates who said that comedy is tragedy plus time. And without tragedy, you can't have comedy. And I would say that I have more friends that have committed suicide in the comedy community than any other community I've ever been in, whether it be work, high school, college. I've dropped out of 3 colleges. 3 different colleges. And comedians do tend to be the most depressed. And if I had to theorize why that happens, it's because we receive so much adulation on stage that we're just used to receiving love in droves that we can dive into and swim in, and it really becomes part of us that the moment we're not getting that, we don't know how to react. I mean, it's almost a curse of just being too good at comedy, which I wish I was. I'm not. Although about 2 weeks ago I got a standing ovation at a show, which was really nice.
Nice.
But I got to work the next day, and nobody clapped when I walked into a room. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You're supposed to clap when I walk into a room, and I realized, no, that's pretty arrogant. Maybe just go, woo, clapping is a bit much. But yes, I think because of the highs and lows of human emotion, comedians are often the most depressed people on the planet. Luckily, I'm not good enough at comedy to be that depressed. I have a wonderful wife. I have 2 healthy, happy, beautiful children. I have a solid day job, good group of friends, thousands and thousands of jokes, which are occasionally funny, passion projects there. So I feel like that depression doesn't really encompass who I am, but a lot of my really good friends who are very talented suffer from it greatly.
Now I have to ask, why did you drop out of college 3 times?
Well, they said that when you're good at something, stick with it. And I'm good at dropping out. It's like, there's 2 things that I'm really good at, and that's disappointing my parents and dropping out of college. So I was able to do those both over and over and over. And comedy is about repetition and what they call callbacks. So drop out of college, be like, call back, dropped out before, call back, dropped out again. Realistically, I went to UC Riverside for 3 years and some change. My first 2 years, I was kicking ass. I was writing and producing plays for the theater department. I had a humor column in the newspaper. Won Best College Columnist for Southern California 2 years in a row. The pen and the typewriter. I guess the iPhone. However I typed it out. I was very good at the humor columns. And I was just trying to do too much. I had a full-time job. I was a full-time student, writing and directing plays, writing for the newspaper, trying to do comedy in the LA scene, which is very hard to break into. Gonna blow my nose, not because I'm getting emotional, but because I'm a touch sick. But yeah, I guess bad time management. That's why I dropped out so many times. I was really good at a lot of things, and managing my time well was not one of them.
Would you say maybe burnt out? Or not really?
I would say that I was burnt out, but I don't want to say burnt out because that offends some of my black comedian friends who get very ashy. I don't want to be here filmed saying that I am ashy because white people, we don't get ashy. We get baby powdery, I guess. I don't know. Haven't used lotion in years. But yeah, it's probably just a mental burnout, physical burnout. I was just trying to juggle too many things at once. And when you juggle too many knives, eventually, you stab yourself in the fucking face. It's in the Bible. I don't know if it's in the Bible. It should be. There should be more knife juggling in the Bible. I've always thought this. I go to church, I'm like, hey, you got sodomy, you got murder, you got resurrection. Knife juggling, that's where it's at. More people convert if knife juggling was involved.
You think so?
Oh, I know so. Lord knows. Jesus de Cristo. Shout out.
I love it. I love it. All right. All right.
So who are your favorite comedians? I'll turn it around on you a little bit. So if you had to say comedians that you love, anybody that's influenced you in comedies, are there any names that stand out?
You can't interview the interviewer.
Oh, I'm treating you like God treats a Dalmatian. I'm putting you on the spot. Spot, right there. Dalmatianing the situation. I'm Cruella DeVille. You're 101 puppies. Let's make this thing work.
All right.
So, anybody that's really influenced you in comedy?
George Lopez, obviously, and
I believe it's pronounced Jorge.
Jorge Lopez and Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle, brilliant, very, very funny guy. Can't argue with that. And as a filmmaker, and you don't need to include this, just like out of personal curiosity, are you familiar with Woody Allen at all?
Was he in Home Improvement?
That's Tim Allen.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, Woody Allen was a filmmaker. He's an Academy Award-winning director. In fact, I think he's won Best Screenplay 15 times, or he's been nominated. But he started off as a stand-up comedian. Mm-hmm. And even though he's from New York, he got a lot of his comedy chops performing in San Francisco in the 50s and early 60s. He made a movie called Annie Hall, which you probably heard of. Annie Hall beat Star Wars and The Godfather for Best Picture. Mm-hmm. But really brilliant guy who went from being a stand-up comedian to being more of a serious film director over time. But he's also kind of nuts because he married his stepdaughter and it became this big scandal. But you don't need to include any of this. I was wondering as a filmmaker because I minored in film at one of the colleges I went to. Wrote some screenplay stuff. Wrote a treatment for a TV show that never got made. Gotcha. So I always really loved Woody Allen. I thought he influenced me. Not as much from stand-up, but the way he could structure a screenplay, a teleplay, a stage play. The way he was able to structure storylines like jokes. I always loved the way he was able to do that. So I was wondering if there's any comedians that you're like, oh, they're funny, and they kind of made me want to make films. Because if I was going to make films, it's just basically Woody Allen knockoffs. I'd be Woody Allen, but taller and less Jewish. I wouldn't have the glasses, and I probably wouldn't marry my stepkids. It's just not my thing.
Gotcha. Maybe Stephen King, but even then, I don't watch enough movies, believe it or not. Or even TV. I'm always like on YouTube, but
I've never YouTube. I've never heard of it.
No. I like,
do you own the tube? How does the tube work? Is it like an underground bridge that you go from like one side to another?
Underground society, I would say.
Okay.
McJuggernuggets. I don't know if you heard of him. He's the one I look up to. He used to do a lot of short films and stuff like that. So
Juggernuggets. Does he hide chicken McNuggets in a bra? Because I think Juggernuggets makes me think I would put chicken McNuggets in a bra.
I guess he just really loved them. And
yeah.
He got over it, but he just...
Well, if you don't love chicken nuggets, you don't love America. Like, I'm sorry. Chicken nuggets are arguably the best thing about America. You got freedom, baseball, chicken nuggets, in that order.
Yes. I haven't tried the ghost pepper nuggets yet.
Oof, yeah, my toilet is not looking forward to that. I think when I try the ghost pepper nuggets, there's going to be literally and figuratively some shit going down. I'll be using this right here.
I don't think they're as spicy as people make it out to be.
You don't think they're as caliente?
I don't think so.
Yes, I think caliente, which is Spanish for entering California, right? Is that caliente?
Yes.
Yes, yes. See, my Espanol is bueno.
Yes.
My Espanol is Italian kiss. I'm bringing the world together with all of my jargons. Yeah, any other questions? Anything else?
All right. So you've been to Hollywood.
I have. So when I went to college in Southern California, Riverside is in an area called the Inland Empire. So you have Hollywood, Santa Monica, all that stuff's kind of close to the water. Inland, shocker from its name, it's more inland. It's just, you go further towards where you have Arizona and Nevada. But I would make the drive out to Hollywood, and I do open mics at the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, kind of the big clubs there. The one club I really liked, which isn't really as much in the Hollywood scene, is the Ontario Improv, which is in Ontario, California, not Canada. That's right, Canada. Suck it. We have our own Ontario. Way less hockey, but it's still fun. It's nice. And doing lots of open mic competitions down there is really where I had the opportunity to open for famous people. Because while other comedians are doing open mics 5-6 nights a week, I was going to school and directing plays, so I really looked at comedy as more of a sport, kind of a competition, to where I'm only going to sign up because I want to beat these motherfuckers. It's 40 comedians, 3 of them are in a spot. I want to be one of those top 3 guys. And yeah, like when I opened for Bob Saget, Full House, I was in a competition with 40 other comics, and I came in 3rd place. Didn't win it, came in 3rd place. But the guy who came in 1st place used a ton of bad language and was very blue. Mm-hmm. And Bob Saget, I don't know if you've ever seen his comedy, it's actually really raunchy. On his TV show, he's a dad, but he's very raunchy on stage, and I'm kind of more goofy. So I think that they didn't want 2 comedians that were just that edgy on the show. So I got bumped up, and I got to open for Bob for 2 nights, 3 shows. And he actually watched my set, which was really cool, because if you open for big-name comedians, half the time they're hanging out in the green room upstairs, or they're in their limo. They might not even be in the building when the local opener guys are on. But Bob watched my set, and he gave me really kind of interesting backhanded compliment advice. He said, "You're funny, but there's 2 people you can be on stage. You can either be yourself, or you can be somebody else. But you want to be the same person the whole time so people can follow you." And that was really good advice. And I watched him go out on stage and talk about pooping his pants and slapping prostitutes and doing like really dirty stuff after giving me very wholesome fatherly advice. So thank you, Bob. Not only are you kind and funny, you are my biggest professional credit.
Would you say are you for Bob Saget or not really?
Oh, I like him a lot. I think he's a very funny comedian. Sinbad is another guy I've opened for. If you remember Sinbad, he's really big in the early 90s. He made some movies. And he is a guy who is very tall and an imposing figure. And he goes up on stage, and some nights we'll do 2 hours. And an hour and a half of that will be just picking on the audience. Not necessarily insulting them, but it's crowd work. And that's a whole different beast. Because me, I am married to the material. I love my jokes. I'm a nerd about it. I write my jokes in 3 different pens. In fact, I fill out between 12 and 20 notebooks a year when I write my jokes. And I'm such a nerd about it. I have a table of contents that I color code. I number the pages. I mark a T by any joke that I've tweeted later on, just so I know what some people may have heard while I'm on stage and what they haven't. I give a title to every book that I have, and I keep that for the full year, and then take a head count. So I think last year I wrote 2,700 jokes. How many of them are funny? Maybe 27. We'll see. But it's like Jerry Seinfeld said, comedy's not like baseball. If you follow baseball, if you're batting 300, that means that you're only getting hit 3 out of every 10 times. But that's better than most people. So when you're writing jokes, if 30% of your jokes are hilarious, and you focus on that 30% and cultivate them till they're half your act and 100% of your act, you will be an all-star in comedy. You'll be funny and you'll knock it out of the park every time. Or almost every time. Even great comedians bomb. And I'm not a great comedian, but I bomb, and it sucks. It hurts you on the inside. But at the end of the day, when you get off stage, you feel like, well, that's the worst thing that's going to happen to me today. So you move on. And it's fun. And doing comedy for a long period of time, lots of your friends will quit along the way. They'll say, I didn't get that TV show, or I didn't get to tour nationally. I didn't get to work out of California. But I don't know. I just love the process. I love writing jokes. I love making people laugh. And whether or not I make it or get on TV or open for huge comedians, I will do it till I die. I'll be that 95-year-old guy running the open mic at the retirement home, giving people the light. And they'll say, I see the light. We'll say, Nurse, just get over here. And they're like, no, the stage light. I go, oh, okay. And that's where I see myself in, how old am I? 60 years. That's where I see myself in 60 years. Rocking the retirement home. If somebody dies during my set, I'm going to say, I killed. Why? Because you take credit. Killing in comedy, it's like the best thing you can do. So hopefully it's not with elderly audience members.
So you mentioned Hollywood and meeting people. Is there anybody, you don't have to say names, but anybody that you met that's big, or not even big, but that you be like, that person I cannot work with, or that personality trait I cannot deal with? Any of that?
Anything fun and juicy? Well, I met Cat Williams a handful of times. And Cat, who maybe he's kind of gone off the deep end, he's a little crazy, is a genius at stand-up. Cat Williams is a comedy genius. And when I met him, he was still kind of getting up to that level. And he introduced me on the stage 3 or 4 times, never once said my name right. My name is Charlie Spink, and he would pluralize it and say, Charlie Spinks! And then the one time he said my name properly, he called me Chris. He said, ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Spink! And I'm like, I got half of it. That's cool. But around that time, I think he'd just been in one of the Friday movies. And so he was really kind of gaining heat and notoriety, and a really sweet guy. Let me see, not to speak ill of the dead, but Dustin Diamond, if you're Dustin, he played Screech on Saved by the Bell. He was doing stand-up, and I met him actually as a journalist covering stand-up. I covered one of his shows for a newspaper I was working with. And I love Saved by the Bell, grew up, that was my show. I always thought I was the perfect hybrid of Screech and Zach. Looking back on it, I was probably 90% Screech, only 10% Zach. I was not as cool as I thought I was. But I met Dustin. He was kind of a dick. And then he went on stage and bombed for like an hour. And he was just mean to people. I didn't like the way he treated others. And I understand there might have been substance abuse problems, heavy drinking later on. But Dustin Diamond was probably the biggest comedian I've worked with that was a dick. It was just like really, really a pain in the ass. Not a comedian, but are you guys familiar with Marshawn Lynch?
No.
Okay, so, well, Marshawn Lynch, he's a football player from Oakland.
Gotcha.
He's played in a couple Super Bowls, he's in commercials. He has a nickname Beast Mode. And then, I would probably want to cut this out because I want him beating me up. But his mom produced a comedy competition in, say, 2017, 2018, called the Beast Mode Comedy Jam. It was 24 comedians. I came in second place. It was really nice. The winner got like $2,000. Second and third place, we got $100 gift cards for restaurants. So, bit of a discrepancy. Would have liked the money, but hey, it was still fun. But Marshawn, he's a huge celebrity. He's in commercials for Subway and DoorDash. He's like a really big name guy. And he showed up at the show produced by his mom. And he went back in the green room where it's me and like 20 comics. And they ordered Panda Express for all the comedians. This is a guy who's made $100 million playing pro football. And he's just like scooping Panda Express into his mouth with his hand. In front of all of us, like poor comedians who are there like, hey, they paid for food. This is a big gig. And Marshawn just comes in and he's like got 2 hands out. He's holding a Gucci backpack and wearing like Yeezy sneakers. He's looking so cool and just so fitted and eating our free food with his own bare hands. And this is before COVID, but I've always been kind of a germaphobe. I'm afraid of Germans. That's a germaphobe. And I was like, I can't eat any of that orange chicken now because Marshawn put his all-star hands on it. Now I can't touch it. So, not a comedian, but also interesting situation. I mean, maybe he was a nice guy. I wouldn't say he was outright mean, but I remember us thinking like, hey, that food was for us. You have $100 million. Go to Outback Steakhouse or something. Go to Olive Garden. You can afford it. They have unlimited breadsticks. But yeah, outside of that, I can't think of a big name comedian that was kind of dickish to me. Everybody has been very good at completely ignoring me or being at least fairly nice. Gotcha. Although, I know you mentioned George Lopez. Gabriel Iglesias, are you familiar with him?
Yes.
Fluffy?
Yeah.
So Fluffy, really sweet guy. I didn't open for him, but I went to a show And I got to talk to him backstage for a little bit, and he gave me a big hug, again, before COVID. Big hug. And as funny as he is also equally sweaty. And in that embrace, he gave me more sweat than I've ever had on stage myself. But it was a really cool experience meeting him. And Ralphie May, who I don't know if you're familiar with. Ralphie May is like a white Fluffy. Ralphie May was on that show Last Comic Standing many years ago. Had 2 or 3 Comedy Central specials. And he was on the Celebrity Weight Loss Club. He was like 600 pounds. And he lost a lot of that weight. And then he had a heart attack and died fairly young. But it was another thing. I got to not even really open for him. He was doing a show and I had an unpaid guest set. So I was just around and they're like, oh, somebody didn't show up. So they chose a couple local guys to go do 5 minutes. So I got to work in front of Ralphie May. And Ralphie's he was a very heavy-set white guy from the South, but he'd wear FUBU, and I think he was very in touch with the urban community, or so he thought. And when I got off stage, he was the biggest human being I've ever seen in person. And he was like struggling for air. He goes, man, that boy got flavor! And he gave me a big hug too. So 2 best comedy hugs of my life were Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, at a show in San Diego, and Ralphie May at a show, I think in Long Beach. I don't even remember the club, but seeing Ralphie was great. Rest in peace, Ralphie. You were hilarious and a great guy.
So you did mention that you would do comedy for the rest of your life.
Or longer.
Or longer.
If I can do zombie comedy, I'll be there. I'll go from eating up applause to eating up brains like that. I'll make it happen.
What is your ultimate goal? Both in life or in comedy or entertainment?
In life, world domination. No, my dream, and literally a dream because I had this dream last night. I'd love to write for Saturday Night Live. Even though it's not strictly stand-up. It's comedy writing for an institution that's been around for almost 50 years. It's had so many legends got their start there. And my dreams of it never really go well. So last night I had a dream that I was writing for Saturday Night Live. And I was in the building at 30 Rockefeller Plaza where they film it. And I remember calling my dad to say, hey dad, they cut my sketch this week. Which isn't good news, but it's like in my mind it still felt like, I made it, I'm here, I'm in New York. I'm at Saturday Night Live. And I woke up and they're like, ugh, and I'm all bummed. I'm just stuck here in my beautiful house that I own with my wonderful wife. Ugh. This isn't a shitty apartment in New York writing sketch comedy. But yeah, writing for Saturday Night Live. Maybe being a cast member would be fun, but I like the idea of writing more. I like the idea of giving people that material, and if they fall on their ass, that's not on me. I just go, hey, you messed that up, not me. I gave you gold and you lost it. Or, like Conan O'Brien is somebody I really look up to. So he's a great writer and a smart guy. Conan went to Harvard. Conan O'Brien went to Harvard. And then he was the head writer for Saturday Night Live. Now, he was just a writer, but they would work him into sketches sometimes.
He has his own show, right?
He did for many years. I think
Okay.
it's off the air now. But
Gotcha.
that Conan went from being just a writer to kind of being on stage to eventually having his own late night show. And in a perfect world where I sell my soul to the devil or I win the lottery, or I guess the proper order of operations would be I win the lottery, take that money, sell my soul to the devil, would be to follow the Conan O'Brien path. Go to SNL, be a writer, be in some sketches, eventually have my own late night talk show, and then spend an eternity in hell, because that's what happens when you sell your soul, especially for comedy purposes.
Oh, really?
Or so I've heard, yeah.
Oh, okay. Noted.
Take notes.
Yeah.
You make a pros and cons list. Should I sell soul? Yes, no. How about you, as a filmmaker, what would be your ideal situation? Making a big blockbuster, making something critically acclaimed and low budget? What do you think would really satisfy that filmmaking hole that's deep inside of you? What do you think would fill that?
I want to make Hollywood. Not Hollywood. I want it to be here. Like
You're
I
in
want
Concord.
I want to have the
Film
connection.
your projects in Concord,
I have
people.
the connection.
I'm talking to you, Spielberg. I know you're afraid to come to Concord.
Yeah.
Tough areas like Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill.
That's where the real.
That's where the real action's at.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If I can have a content house, dominate YouTube, I'll be proud.
And by dominating YouTube, is there a certain number of subscribers that you think, oh, if I have 50,000 or 100,000 or 2 million, like what would be a million? That would be cool.
Yeah.
And they give you a plaque when you get a million, right? So you get a thing that says, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of like old school music, back when you had to actually buy it physically before the internet. And when you sell 1 million records, they give you a platinum record you get to hang up in your house. And before I started writing comedy, when I was 9 and 10 and 11 years old, when I was about my oldest son's age, my oldest son is 12, I started writing songs and jokes and short stories around the same time. But my main focus was I was going to be a rock star. I was going to be the next Michael Jackson. I love Michael Jackson. I was really into writing songs. Then after 5-6 years, I realized I can't sing for shit. So in high school, I recorded a few like song parody albums. That I went to De La Salle over here in Concord, and I'd make a cover for it. I went to a professional studio, and I would print out 400 or 500 copies of an album, and I'd sell almost all of them each time, which was really nice. Not good for copyright infringement because you don't own any beats when you're making parody albums, but it was a lot of fun, and I love the process. I love the process of sitting just in a small, almost airless room in a studio and making the creativity happen with musicians and engineers and people with real talent. And I would just come up with, funny shit, and it would come together and be something. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's like making soup. You're just dumping all the ingredients into a small room, and just the heat of your effort comes together, and you mix it up, and maybe you get something great, maybe you get something terrible, but I love that creative process. And early on, I wanted to be a singer, and then as my backup plan, I'm like, maybe my fallback is I'll be the greatest comedian in the world. Like, if I have to be, that's what my fallback plan will be. And I'm very, very far from that. But we'll see. In fact, Concord's really interesting. There's a guy from Concord named Paul Conyers, who's a comedian. It's like 6'8", really tall guy, very handsome. He looks like if somebody took Tom Brady and stretched him. Very handsome, funny guy. He won a national competition called the World Series of Comedy about 2 years ago. So Concord has great comedians hiding all over here, on Monument Boulevard, on 6th Street, on everywhere you look around. Guy Dan Myers, who also went to De La Salle years after I went. Very, very funny comic. He's from Concord. Alex Woody, who has a very funny podcast called Midnight in the Bay. I suggest y'all check it out if you're a podcaster. I'm not really into pods or casting.
I am.
I am. Well, exactly. He doesn't live too far from here, so stalk him, change notes. Maybe you can be on each other's podcasts and just make it happen. But Alex Woody, also very, very funny guy. And I feel like if I had more time, I'd love to do a podcast too. But yeah. I know with my work schedule and my family, just sort of cut out all the stammerings. Any extra time I have, I want to put into doing stand-up. If I'm not with my family or at work providing for my family, stand-up's the main focus. When I was younger, I wrote full-length stage plays. I write 3-act plays. I really love that. I was really into poetry. I wrote sonnets. I've written over 100 sonnets. But when you can only do that one thing on the side as a break from life and reality, stand-up is where it's at for me.
So it would be not a good idea for me to ask you to be on one of my short films then.
Never, no, I'm kidding. No, if I have the time, that's the thing about construction, is that right now with the rain, the next couple months we won't be quite as busy. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the summer, I'm working like literally 7 days a week most of the time. But then we get beautiful weather like this that would kill a wicked witch if she stepped outside. I'm melting! That's what happens with the rain. I mean, not to get too sexual, but rain makes ladies wet. Take note, fellas. I mean, come on. Doesn't rain get you wet when you're outside as a lady? Yeah, see, it happens.
Definitely.
Rain gets you soaking. So, guys, if you're looking for an aphrodisiac, thunderstorm makes it happen. But yeah, no, if you have a project and I know in advance that I definitely don't have to work that weekend, I'm all for it. That's what I love about stand-up, too, is stand-up shows I tend to do late at night. So even at my work where I'm working 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. is kind of like my standard shift, 4 a.m. 6 p.m. Most comedy shows start at 8:30. So if I'm doing a show, like let's say at Tommy T's this coming Wednesday, Tommy T's, 5104 Hop Yard Road, Pleasanton, California. That's a plug. It's after work, and Tommy T's is also halfway between Concord and where I work in Fremont. So it kind of became my home club solely based on geography. As I drive about halfway home, I go, I'm going to tell some jokes over here. And now I'm coming back home. And that's where I realize I'm most famous. Because there's a gas station outside of Tommy T's. There's a Chevron on Hop Yard and Owens Drive. And if I have a good night and I go into that gas station, I'm fucking famous. I'm Eddie Murphy. I'm Richard Pryor. I'm Lenny Bruce. I'm George Carlin. They go, hey, I saw you. You're kind of funny. And then they'll buy me a Red Bull. Or they'll buy me a Snickers. Call back to Snickers. Sponsor this. You're delicious. When we get hangry, we go to you. Snickers.
Yes. Advice for future comedians, entertainers.
Well, for future comedians, I would say if you're a present comedian and you have a time machine, go into the future and then come back and tell me what comedy is like. Because I want to be on the forefront. I want to be on the cutting edge. I want people to be on the edge of your seat. I'm on the very edge of the seat. I'm going to break through these legs. It's going to happen. I'm a chunky fella. But I'm on the edge of the seat. And that's how comedy should be. The most serious advice I can give about comedy, and anybody who does comedy will tell you this, get on stage every minute you can. Stage time is precious, and you have to learn to love bombing. Lewis Black, who's a really funny and famous comedian, he said, you know you're a comedian when you love bombing. When you can be up there on stage and be eating shit in front of people that think you're not funny. Nobody hears that they're not funny more than a professional comedian, because that's your job. If you're up there and you're not being funny, they're going to say, hey, boo, you're not funny. But you have to love the process so much that you're willing to go up there, 8, 9, 10, 12 times a week. And if you live in San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, Seattle, Dallas, Cleveland, there's lots of cities, Las Vegas, where you can get up a couple times a night, almost every night. There's a comedian from Fremont named Sammy Obeid. He's a very, very funny, hilarious fella. And he made a documentary movie called 1001 Nights of Comedy. And he's Middle Eastern, so it's kind of a play on 1001 Arabian Nights. But he got on stage 1001 nights in a row and filmed little pieces of it. And it got him on TV. I think that he did the David Letterman show, he did Conan O'Brien. He got on TV to promote the movie, but it was based on how much time and effort he was able to put into being on stage every single opportunity possible. So my advice for everybody who wants to be a comedian, be a comedian. If there's a stage, find a way to get on it. That's the most serious, straightforward advice any comedian can give. Get on stage, be funny. And don't get detoured by having a bad night. My biggest regret in comedy is when I was 19 and 20 and 21, I would not do comedy for a month at a time. If I had a bad show, I'd let one bad show cock block my next 3 weeks of shows. I would cancel. I'd be booked on shows and say, you know what, I'm not feeling it. And I think I stunted my comedy growth. It took me a long time to get back to being as consistent as you should be, because comedy is a muscle. You have to be strong enough to do the same, not the exact same set, because you want to work in new material also, but if you're watching a Netflix special, if you're watching a Comedy Central special, that's traditionally 2 to 5 years of jokes that people have been working on to get them that good. And it's going on those stages every night for those 4 or 5 years to get that good. That's why every comedian's first special is great, because it's your greatest hits of everything you've ever wanted. And that's why everybody's second special usually sucks. The sophomore slump is huge in comedy. I mean, I'm not going to name names because it's rude, and shoot, I don't have a national special to promote. But there's a lot of really great comedians whose first special is fire, because that's the best that they've ever done. All of their most hard-hitting, funny jokes of 5 years of blood, sweat, tears, cum, whatever body fluids you have, put into an hour or an hour and a half. And then your second special is just the shit you came up with in the next 6 months when you're like, oh, they're going to pay me money for another special. Let's do it. So do comedy. Don't stop. Don't take time off. It's an honor to make people laugh. It's a privilege to make people laugh. Everybody else has jobs that they hate, from 9 to 5 or 4 to 6. They have jobs that you really can't stand. When you're given the responsibility to get on stage and make believe and play pretend and talk to people and make friends for 90 minutes to 2 hours a night, take it. That's the most important part about comedy.
Now, we talked about everything except for, I'll leave the interview in a softer note where everybody can relate, because everybody likes to hear, that struggle, that problem that you went through, that you came 150 times stronger. What is the biggest struggle you have faced till now, if any?
I had a really bad diarrhea the other day. I was pooping quite a bit. It's 48 hours of, I don't know if you've seen Pompeii, city where the volcano had the ashes destroy people, and they were stuck that way forever. That was the shit that I took on Thursday. I would say that was probably my biggest struggle. It's tough as a white man in America. Sometimes we deal with the police, and they can be so rude. I got pulled over by a cop one time on my birthday, and he didn't even give me a present. I'm like, police brutality much? I mean, the struggle is real. I don't know. As far as serious struggle goes, probably dropping out of college. Just because I really thought I had everything planned out, and I was doing everything I could between playwriting and comedy, and I was in a relationship I was happy with, and I was on good terms with my family. And growing up in the Bay Area, I kind of lived all over. I lived in Texas, I lived in Delaware, I lived in New Jersey, but the Bay Area is kind of where I consider home. I moved here as a preteen and kind of stayed here until college, eventually moved back. The biggest struggle was starting over, was coming back to the Bay Area, realizing that I had failed in going down south and making a name for myself and being an entertainer and having to start from scratch and from the grassroots and kind of build up a local following and have a reason to do comedy. I honestly felt when I was 19 and 20 that people couldn't relate to me on stage because I didn't have enough life experience. If I'm the youngest person in the club, I'm 19, I can't even buy a drink. Mm-hmm. But I was doing clubs at 19 and 20, and I get up there and be like, finals are hard. Or I do jokes that were plays on words about Homer's Odyssey or anything I was reading in literature class. I was trying really hard to sound smart in my jokes. There's nothing like being a smart dumbass, I used to say. That's the best path to a laugh, is to be equally stupid and brilliant. And the laugh is somewhere in between there. And then the biggest struggle was coming back up here, realizing that didn't work. And I needed to get that life experience. And losing the faith and trust of the people that believed in me and starting at ground zero and building back up, that was probably my biggest struggle. That and the diarrhea on Thursday. I can't downplay how bad my diarrhea was on Thursday. In fact, I hate, because this is kind of a hacky premise, a lot of people, they're like, I went to Taco Bell and got diarrhea. I work in construction, so I eat off real taco trucks. Taco Bell is not something I prefer, because I get real Mexican food. But I went to a Taco Bell, and I ate 3 or 4 tacos and a burrito, and I had to shit before I even left that Taco Bell. So I didn't even make it out. The life cycle of those tacos came out in that Taco Bell. I didn't leave the premises. So I'm walking out the door, and I say, you know what, I gotta hit the baño, because you guys call it baño. I had to hit the baño, and I pulled down my pants, and because I'm a neat freak, I took the paper towel things that you put on top of the toilet seat, I ripped one off, I put it there, and the toilet bowl at Taco Bell started talking to me. No, it did. This is like documentary style. This has really happened. It said, "You would not believe the things I have seen. I have dealt with so much shit. I have seen such crazy crap in my time." And then because my butthole is very social, anybody knows this about me, my butthole wanted to carry on a conversation with this toilet. So my butthole said, yeah, that's as serious as I get.
Love it.
Biggest tragedy of my life, that diarrhea.
That is all I have. Is there anything you would like to say, or famous last words, or anything like that?
I would like to do a plug real quick. Does anybody have a cell phone charger? Because I need to plug in my cell phone. A plug! It's a comedy term. No, I'm going to be at Tommy T's Comedy House in Pleasanton, California this coming Wednesday. So be there or be a square. Be any geometric figure, really. But come on down, say my name at the door. I'll get you a free ticket.
There you have it. Comment, like, subscribe for more.
Yep.
See you guys later.
Pound that subscription button. Or, what do they say? Like, smash it? What do they
Yeah.
say? Hulk, smash subscription button.
Yes.
Pound the like. Everybody says...